All right, everybody, so for today's class, we are going to do something a little bit different. Every now and again, we like to step outside of our normal curriculum, just going from one technique to the next, and do something that's a little bit more advanced, something that you're expected to know really well once you get to the higher levels, but we want to expose you to it now and allow you to mess with it a little bit, so that way, as you continue practicing, you can get better and better. So we're going to be taking a look at a couple of techniques today from the control unit, which is something that Mr. Koppel and myself are very passionate about and have been working on for several years now. The idea behind the control unit is that sometimes we might find ourselves in a situation, maybe you are a law enforcement officer and you aren't able to punch somebody in the face and break their jaw or something because of whatever circumstances. I've had lots of students in the past that worked in corrections, like a corrections officer, like a jailer, somebody who works in a jail, has to take somebody from cell to cell, whatever the case might be. They can't just go around punching their inmates. Or maybe you're a civilian and a family member has just gotten totally out of hand. You have to de-escalate the situation, you have to neutralize the threat, but you don't want to severely injure your family member because you still love them, they're just out of hand right now. So whatever the case might be, Mr. Koppel and myself found that it's totally necessary for a good, complete, wholesome Krav Maga curriculum to have such techniques in it. So we're going to take a look at the head roll today, which is a takedown that we can use to maintain control over somebody and not, judo throw, slam them, flip them over, and, where they hit their head on the concrete really hard and get severely injured. We're going to take a look at the head roll, and we're also going to take a look at the standing Kimura, or the figure 4 takedown, which is another one of my favorites. So just switching it up a little bit today, but as always, we got to warm up before we do that. We don't want to just start throwing each other by our arms cold. So we do have a fairly intense warm up today, so let's get ready for that. The first thing that we're going to be doing is lunges. We're going to do this for a whole minute, so you got to be sure to pace yourself. I'm going to have my hands up just like this with my elbows in nice and tight. I'm going to reach out, and then I want to make sure that my knee doesn't get in front of my foot. So I'm just going to kind of squat straight down, and then I'm going to kind of propel myself back up into my passive feet, squared up anyway. So I'm going to be here and then back, here and back. We're going to do this for a whole minute. So on the bell, gentlemen, let's have those hands up. On the bell, we're going to do those lunges for one whole minute. Just go at your own pace, but if you go too fast, you'll probably have to slow down. It's up to you. Almost halfway through our lunges. Be sure that you're regulating your breathing, trying to breathe as deeply as possible. Get your lungs ready for escalating warm-up today, getting better and better all the time, or worse and worse, depending on how you look at it. 15 seconds left. Keep going. Probably feeling a bit of a burn now, but no big deal. Next up, we're going to do jab, cross, hook, shuffle. Jab, cross, hook, shuffle. Good, so this next drill, we're only going to do this for 30 seconds. The idea here is I'm practicing good body sponsorship, so I do a jab, do a cross with a pivot, a hook with a pivot, and then I'm going to shuffle about a quarter of the way around, being careful not to cross my feet and not to let my feet get too close together. So we're shuffling around. You can shuffle, halfway around or a quarter of the way around, whatever you want to. So jab, cross, hook, shuffle. We're only doing this for 30 seconds, so be sure you're in a good stance. Back heel slightly up off the ground, hands up, elbows in, ready, and go. Big punches. So this is essentially a shadow boxing. It is a shadow boxing combination. So if you want to flick your fingers out to stay nice and loose, that's totally fine. Or you can have your hands totally open and then close them as you strike. Either way about it, stay nice and loose, long punches, the full range of motion. 5 seconds left. Okay, and time. Now, next drill, we're going to be doing hook, uppercut, and then sprawl. Hook, uppercut, sprawl. So on the hook, I'm going to do the same thing that we just practiced, and then on an uppercut, I need to make sure that my hand stays, my arm stays nice and close to my body. So I'm dipping my body, and I'm pushing and pivoting. So I'm doing hook, uppercut, and then on my sprawl, I'm going to, with my legs staggered because I'm still in my stance, I'm reaching all the way down so that my hands can touch the mat, and then I'm going to shoot one hip onto the mat, and then come right back up into my stance, and come back up. So I'm going hook, cross, sprawl. Be sure that you touch your hands to the ground first. Don't belly flop onto the ground. You'll learn the hard way that that's not a good way to do it. We're only doing this for 30 seconds, so when you hear the bell, let's go for 30 seconds. Go. Bryce is really exaggerating his pivots, which is good. Don't want to roll an ankle or anything, but we do want to have good, nice, big motions, especially when we're just getting loosened up and warming up. 2 more seconds, get 1 more in. And time. Great job, great job. So now we're going to be moving on to switch knees. So this is going to be a clinch knee. So as if I've got somebody like this, or I've got an underhook, or whatever the case might be, I might have them in some sort of a side clinch. And then I'm moving, and I'm extending my hips here, so I'm getting a good stretch out of my hip flexor muscles. I'm just really pushing forward. Obviously, it's not the exact same motion as if I really had somebody in a side clinch, but this is just an exercise. So I'm here in my stance. I'm going to do my knee, set it down, and then switch. Knee, set it down, and switch. Knee, and switch. So we're going to try to switch quickly, and then throw your knee immediately. So we're going to do this for 1 whole minute, so be sure to set a good pace. Go. Very nice. Switch your knee. Good. About halfway through. Try to keep a good steady pace. Great job of breathing out as they strike. I appreciate that, gentlemen. Only 15 seconds left. And time. Great job. So now we're going to be doing a walking push-up. So the idea here is I should get a little bit of a stretch as I do this. I'm going to reach straight down until I touch the mat. Some people might have to bend the knees a little bit, which is totally fine. But I'm going to reach down until I touch the mat. I'm just going to walk out slowly until I get into a good push-up or plank position. I'm going to do 1 whole push-up, and then I'm going to walk back up and then stand all the way up. So I'm all the way down, push-up, all the way back. Okay, so we're only doing that for 30 seconds. Get ready, guys. And go. Keep your legs more or less straight if you can. And get a stretch while we're at it. Very nice. 8 seconds left. Good, and time. Great job. Okay, last exercise of the day, or of our warm-up. I'm going to be holding my feet out just like this. I can cross them, but I'm normally comfortable just like this. I'm going to have my hands up, and I'm just going to crunch until I touch my toes. So it's going to be a little bit more of an explosive motion. It might be kind of difficult to just squeeze until you get there. You do need to gather some momentum so that you can touch your toes. Okay? So go ahead and assume the position, gentlemen. And they did break falls because that's just how we get down. That's fantastic. All right, so toe touches. We're going to do this for a whole minute, so be sure that you get a good pace established. Ready, and go. Yeah, these are not easy. Not easy. Now let's go ahead and turn to where your feet are facing each other for the last 30 seconds of this. The turn. Yep, keep going. Yeah, 12 seconds. Burn it out. Do as much as you can. As much as you can. Only 5 seconds left. You got this. And time. Stand up and base. Great job, gentlemen. Great job. So, you know, we're going to have an easier class today, so we had to make sure that the warm-up was nice and difficult. Hope you enjoyed that. Go ahead and take a very short water break, and let's get right back to it. So as I said, both of these techniques are from the control unit. Both of these are actually takedown techniques, and I actually differentiate between a throw and a takedown. There's lots of different interchangeable terminology that we use, but for takedowns, I generally mean that to communicate with somebody that I'm getting somebody from their feet, a position of control, getting them to the ground, but with me being in control the whole time. So judo is fantastic, but some of the throws are what we call sacrifice throws, where I would fall over too, and so if I'm not participating in the sport of judo, it wouldn't be good for me. So there's a difference between a takedown and a throw. These are both takedowns today. We're going to move from a position of control on the feet to a position of control on the ground, and that's really important to differentiate from. So the very first technique is the head roll. If I have, and this is most often done from a side clinch position. As a matter of fact, it's almost always done from a side clinch position. And it's called a head roll because I'm going to roll his head underneath my arm from one side to the other. So if you can imagine you're driving a big boat, that's kind of what it looks like. So if I've got an arm stop here to stop him from moving forward or doing some sort of a duck under, and then I also have an underhook, I need to make sure that his posture is already broken down. So we're just like this. We're just going to do this in really slow motion. I'm essentially going to toss or pass his head here. It's going to go underneath my arm, and I'm going to take my hand that's got this underhook, my arm that is underhooking his arm, and I'm going to bring it over here. So I essentially want for my hands to trade places right now. So if you can imagine, I'm controlling his head and his arm, and then I'm going to make him trade places or go to the other side. So as I do this, he's essentially going to fall where I am right now, so I need to be scooting back and getting out of the way. So I've already got his posture broken down, but I'm going to be pulling him off balance. So see, he just had to take a little step forward to catch himself. I pull him forward off balance, and then when I turn, that's when he's going to be the lightest. So I pull, and then I turn, and that's what makes him fall down. So what I like is I've still got a really good clamp on his tricep. I can immediately move to sort of a knee on belly type position. I'm not going to hit him because it's a control unit. I'm just used to doing that. I could lock something up, and again, I was in a position of control because I had a good side clinch. I had his posture broken, all that, and now I'm in another position of control. There's lots of things that we can do here to stop somebody from getting away, but again, and also protecting myself, but again, I'm not breaking his jaw. I'm not punching him in the throat, not causing serious harm to him, but I'm certainly controlling him and neutralizing him as a threat. So again, I've got a side clinch, and I can't just force somebody to bend over as I was doing just now for demonstrative purposes. So if I'm here, what I would have to do is actually reach to the far side of his neck and actually pull him off balance. So I'm going to have to go forward and then around with my feet. So as I do that, now he had to swing his foot around and catch himself so he didn't fall over. So what happens is when I pull somebody off balance and they're forced to take a step, right before they take their step and that moment of time when they're off balance, that's when he's going to be lightest and the easiest to manipulate. So I'm going, and partners at home, it's super important that you don't at any point reach out and try to catch yourself. We're just going to allow yourself to fall. It's going to be very light, but hopefully you're on some sort of padding or carpeting so this doesn't hurt too bad. So we're here, I pull first, and then I turn. So essentially he kind of fell on his hip line or his butt area, and then I can just kind of hit the shoulder, move into a knee on belly position from here. So now I'm going to have these two go back and forth now that I've taught it a little bit, and I want to point out some things as they go. So Bryce, I want you to do it to Curtis first, and we're just going to go essentially back and forth. So let's go pull off balance first. Now he's going to scoot back and head roll. So as you can see, Bryce did the pulling him off balance. Go ahead and reset. He did the pulling him off balance and the head roll a little bit closer together, so you can see that's almost like a continuation of that motion. Let's do 2 for 2, gentlemen. 2 for 2. So he pulls off balance, then he scoots back for the head roll. Nice. Now it's Curtis's turn. He's going to pull him off balance first, and now he's going to scoot back for the head roll. Very good. And then straight to the knee on belly position. Very nice. Or the shin on belly. It's actually a more accurate description. That's not what it's called, but it's a shin on the belly. Just like that. Awesome. Keep going 2 for 2. Make sure that they're flat on their back. One thing that happens when I do a head roll to somebody, if I'm here and I boom, if I catch him, he's kind of on his side, so it's important that as I turn, I can't get down like this. So as I turn, I'm pushing his pectoral muscle or his shoulder down, make sure that he's nice and flat, and then I'm on him. If I'm really compressing his sternum, it makes it extremely uncomfortable, and it's pretty hard for him to move. One of the things that Bryce demonstrated is he kind of locked up a figure 4 like this, and then you can actually go to the hand. I can compress the wrist and cause quite a bit of pain there. And then Curtis was demonstrating more from here, almost like an arm bar, which is also effective as well. We can always escalate this if we need to. Another thing is I can pass this around behind, so I'm grabbing with my left hand or my top hand. I'm grabbing his wrist. Some people call this a gift wrap position, and then I can actually grab his opposite side leg. So there's really not anywhere he can do, and it would be very difficult for him to do any damage with that hand right there. So a couple of different options there. I'm going to start off with the arm, what we call an arm stop, okay? Because if I'm up here like this, he can duck under, take me down, go take my back, whatever the case might be. So I want to make sure that my elbow is pointing down to prevent that from happening. So as I'm here, okay, or if he's up, I've got to pull him around the corner to really get him off balance. If he tries to come in and duck under, my elbow's still down, and now I'm going to pull back again to achieve my head roll. So I kind of yank him off balance, and then I pull the head. I can go here to knee on belly, gift wrap, all sorts of different things that we can do, but that's not what we're focusing on right now, just the head roll. So let's continue 2 for 2. Actually, let's just do back and forth, just back and forth. So Curtis, it's your turn. Curtis is like, yes, love the head roll. Yeah, now let's do one more back and forth, and let's do, don't hurt each other, but let's do pretty much full speed. Nice. Your turn, Curtis. All together, very good. So as you can see, because we're starting off in the side clinch position, based on the nature of our ability to control somebody with a good deep underhook from the side control, or not side control, but the side clinch position, and our continued ability to strike and to block if necessary, that's where we end up quite a bit in our Krav Maga defenses. Really a lot of them, we end up somehow, like even, we most recently did bear hug, so if he does bear hug, I'm here at base and space, and then, what do you know, I'm in a side clinch position. So as you're going through and practicing on your own, in addition to these classes, which I hope that you all are, once I get here, I've thrown good combatives, and then I can hit the head roll. Bang, bang, bang. just like that. So as you're practicing these, this is just sort of a finisher move. Obviously, if my combatives were to good, really vital areas, I was hitting as hard as I possibly can, putting all my weight behind it, that should incapacitate my attacker to the extent that a finisher move isn't really necessary. But again, this is from the control unit, so we can certainly blend those in with our normal defenses. So let's go ahead and do that bear hug arms trap, and let's just add the head roll as a finisher. We're just going to do this a couple of times, just for review. We're here, we're going nice and slow. Yeah, let's see the combatives though. I know we're talking about the control, but this is a finisher move from the control curriculum, but we're doing it after combatives. Okay? Yeah, go ahead. Very nice. Back and forth a couple more times. Awesome. That'll do. Okay. So that was the head roll. Again, we do that most often from the side clinch position. That is something that we can practice at our leisure. You're expected to know that and be fairly good at it by the time you get to the advanced levels, but now you've seen it, you've learned it in a class. If you have any questions about that, you can always email one of your instructors and we'd be happy to go over that with you in greater detail. But now we're going to be moving on to the standing Kimura, or the figure forward takedown. So when we're looking at the standing Kimura, or the figure forward takedown, the most important thing that's happening here is the way that I'm locking up my arm. So I've got my cross wrist grab, so it's essentially opposite side. It's not same side. I've got to reach across the body. I'm going over the top of the arm. I'm reaching around and grabbing my own wrist. Okay, so this is the figure four lock, and we call it that just because it looks somewhat like a figure four, or sometimes like the number 4 sometimes, but it's a very versatile lock. This is also a Kimura lock. So now moving on to the standing Kimura takedown, or the standing Kimura in general, rather. So again, this exists in the control curriculum, where I can control somebody, control them on the feet, take them to the ground, and also in a position of control. But it's very applicable in a lot of different places. And the place that I like to talk about the most is with the knife, okay? Because if I find myself in a side clinch, which is what we were talking about with the head roll as well, if I'm here, okay, I'm beating on this guy and all this kind of good stuff, or I'm just controlling him, or whatever the case might be, I can transition to a lot of different things from here, okay? If I want to come around and arm drag, that would be fine, except if he had the knife and I just did that, I just obviously cut myself, okay? So sometimes we need to be aware of how to transition from one place to the next, but we have to have the right tools for the job. If there's a knife here, then he's not going to cross my center line. If the knife is on this side of my center line, it's not going to cross over to this side for very obvious reasons. And so if I don't have the technique necessary, it's going to be difficult for me to finish this. Now, first and foremost, at the level that we are teaching at the moment, we have not gone over this particular knife defense yet, and the reason for that is that is like the scariest thing I can possibly imagine. I always tell my students that I've been doing knife defenses for well over 10 years now, and I will never try one out in real life, ever, 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 if I can help it. It's just not going to happen. If I see somebody with a knife, I'm situationally aware, so I'm going to run away, like really early. If they get really close to me, hopefully I can find an object in my environment to create space, a barrier between me and him, okay, or something that I can hit him with. If he gets really close and there's nothing available to me, I'm going to hit him to stop his forward progress, to create space, and then I'm going to run away. I'm just absolutely never going to tangle with a guy with a knife, okay? But sometimes we have to, and it's certainly in our curriculum, okay? So if however I block this, move in and jam it with the 360 block and simultaneously hit him in the face, or whatever the case might be, let's just assume that I've gotten here. And again, we can do this in other places too, but I like to use the knife for the example that you definitely are not going to pass this over to the other side of your center line. So if I'm here and his posture's already broken down, I'm going to go to that standing Kimura. So this is one thing that I teach my students in our higher level classes. I'm going to take my hand. I'm assuming that I've already absolutely beat this guy to where he's just barely standing anymore. He's almost knocked out, right? I'm going to come over, taking this hand that's closest to his head. I'm going to come over, and I'm going to switch hands like that. So I'm providing a barrier because I'm between his arm and me, that even for this split second, when I let go with my left hand, I've got a barrier here, but I'm immediately going to be replacing it with a C-clamp, a very strong C-clamp on that wrist. Now, it's very important that this arm is already bent, because what I don't want to do is get way too deep on the arm like this and now he can turn and take my back, and that certainly wasn't a good idea. So again, I already beat him up a lot. I would not do this if he wasn't already significantly softened, okay? But I need to make sure that his arm is bent, so if it's not already, rather than just reaching to grab my wrist, I would chop the arm like I'm going to make him stab him in the kidney, himself in the kidney, and then I'm going to grab my wrist. So he's good and twisted up here, and I've got a really tight control. So the hand that's grabbing his wrist, I've got a C-clamp. The hand that's grabbing my wrist, I'm not using my thumb, I'm leaving it there. So we call that a monkey grab, boom, just like that, right? So again, if the arm isn't bent, I would bend it by chopping, almost like a ridge hand, and then I'm here. So in order to get him to the ground, there's actually a couple different things that I can do. What we do most often is I just kind of crank on this shoulder and I continue circling until he hits the ground, like this. Now I can move to take the knife away from him or whatever. But there's also a way that we can actually kind of combine that takedown with the head roll that we just practiced. And this is one of my favorite takedowns in the world. So again, I've already beat this guy up, and then I'm just transitioning from here. Okay? So if I had to underhook, I would need to switch first, or here. If I already had the wrist, it would be way easy, but I might have to go 1, 2. I wouldn't make the motion quite that big, obviously, in real life. I'm exaggerating just to show you. But if I crank on this shoulder and really get him to falling forward, I can actually walk around to the other side of his head. So I kind of do a head roll and the standing Kimura takedown, or figure 4 takedown, at the same time. So I go here and I go over to the other side. What I like about that is I'm still nice and locked up. I'm still on this arm. I can actually crank on that arm, take his shoulder out, do a lot of damage here, but I can also move to get this knife away from him. So if I'm here, I can come up, that kind of thing. But again, in Krav Maga, we do not lead with any sort of joint locks, things like that. This is from the control unit. This is to make you a well-rounded martial artist, to make you a well-rounded practitioner of Krav Maga. We would never want to tangle with somebody with a knife if we can help it. We wouldn't want to tangle with people in a way where we couldn't hit them anyway, but sometimes we have to, again, like I said earlier, because of work or anything like that. So we're going to go over with the knife in the hand, and we're just going to start off in the side clinch position, just like we did with the head roll. So I want you to transition to that standing Kimura, and then we're going to do just the regular takedown where we're circling him all the way to the ground. Go ahead. So the posture's broken down. He transitions, gets that wrist grab, and now he's going to step forward with the left foot and around with the right, circle him all the way to the ground. Boom, just like that. Good. Do it again, Curtis, that's great. There it is. Good. Now have Bryce do it a couple times. Awesome. One more. Great, great. Okay, so one thing I want to address, and we're essentially using this as a prop right now. We're not doing a knife defense, and hopefully I gave enough disclaimers that you understand the severity of it if you didn't naturally, intuitively already. If I needed somebody to bend over, and I wasn't necessarily delivering a lot of, doing a lot of downstairs combatives or something like that. Number one, sometimes even for things where we're manipulating people's joints and whatnot, we need what we call softening blows. So if I'm trying to make this guy bend over and he's not, well, now he's definitely going to bend over. Now I'm in a good position of control. Or if possible, I can just reach straight and really kind of pull him off balance. So he really had to catch himself right now. I didn't hurt him, but I've certainly gotten his posture really well at this point, right? And then I could transition. If he's not holding a knife, then I'm really not even worried about it. And then we just went over 2 different ways to take him down from this position of control. I can circle him all the way to the ground, or I can tilt So that's really causing a lot of stress and pressure on the shoulder. And then I can walk around to the other side of the head. I can even make him come more upright at this point. There's lots of different things that we can do from there. So this is just to break up the normal curriculum, going from technique to technique to technique, and just giving you things that are down the road that you can worry about later on, but just experimenting with them now and having some fun with it. So we hope you enjoyed this class today.